Hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to EFA173 on this Friday, September 11th, 2020. I gained 8 pounds just like that. I experimented with myself and I told my family and friends about it, and this is what I'm doing. And how did I do that? I've lost 6 pounds of it again, but it took me 3 times the amount to lose that poundage of what I gained. And again, it's an experiment on myself. And how did this happen? And this is where I'm educating you. Right? So I gained 8 pounds just like that. How? By experimenting with traditional food, your traditional pastas, your traditional everything. And I tell you that I eat restaurant food and those kind of things, and I do them, but I don't do 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row. I never do that. But I did that. I experimented myself for a 3 days straight, still fasting, right? So while fasting, I was fasting, but I was eating traditional food. And those that listen to understand to my previous podcast over the last 172 of them, I've told you that I cut sugars out of my life, I cut processed foods out of my life, and so forth. A lot of the traditional foods out there, your traditional pastas and so forth, have a lot of sugars or processed carbs or carby type food, right? And that's what I did. I was eating regular desserts, but I did it 3 days in a row. Usually I have my own desserts. I did 3 days in a row with regular desserts. I did 3 days in a row with traditional foods. Even though I was still doing nutrient-dense foods, and even though I was doing my fasting, I was testing my body out. I shot up literally 8 pounds in 3 days. Think about that for a second. It took me a week to almost lose 6 of those pounds, but I wanted to prove a point. I wanted to prove a point on a GI and a glycemic index, right? So what is the glycemic index? If you look at the definition of glycemic index, and people with diabetics will know about this, it's a measurement on how much specific foods, right? Traditional foods, specific foods increases blood sugar levels, right? So people that talk about an insulin body and glycemic index and so forth, a lot of these diets and lifestyles that are out there were actually created for individuals that were having heart attacks, that were diabetic and so forth. So these lifestyles that you hear of, a lot of them are created medically for that reason. So the lifestyle that I live, and I've said this before, it took me 53 years to kick into gear. So when I used to live the lifestyle and I thought I was doing really, really well with the training and so forth, but I was eating everything else under the sun, right? It wasn't good. Why? Because I was always in an insulin body. And what lives in an insulin body? Your cancers, your diseases, and your inflammation and so forth, right? So by testing this on myself, experimenting, and I wanted to prove a point, and even though I've lost 110 pounds on average, and I've been living really, really, really good, I'm going to say for the last year and a half, right? 15, 16 months now. The test was just to prove a point to myself and to prove a point to you in conversations, right? So while fasting, I shot up 8 pounds. Why? Because I let the type of food that I was consuming affects your blood sugar, right? Anybody with knowledge knows this. Anybody that follows data, anybody that follows research, anybody that follows anybody with knowledge, training, and experience in the medical field that lives this lifestyle will understand that. But I want to prove a point just for you. Fasting, low carb, no process, pay attention to your GI and sugar. That's what you got to do at all times. Do I eat my pastas in restaurants? Yes, I do. Do I have them every night? No, I don't. Right? I break it up, and I've talked about this, a konjac plant and so forth. There's other types of foods out there that are very low in glycemic index or don't affect your glycemic index and don't affect your blood sugar levels, right? So those are the foods that I eat in or very nutrient dense. Cut your sugars and cut your process as much as you can. And I deal with people on every single day. People reach out to me every day, literally. And a lot of them, they're trying these processed products, right? I'm doing this processed product or I'm doing that process. They don't say process, but I'm using this bucket and I'm using that bucket and I bought this brand, I bought that brand. A lot of those products have products in there that will shoot up your glycemic index. And if you really, really want to do this on a successful level for the rest of your life, eat natural, eat real food, eat food that don't contain sugars, or eat food that don't affect your glycemic index. So why do you work so hard? I've asked this to everybody. Why do you work so hard? At what age do you want to be sick? 60, 70, 80, right? How about you live 80, 90 years, 100 years, 70 years strong and full without any diseases? You do that by staying away from sugar foods and glycemic index affecting foods and blood sugar foods, right? Stay away from that. And if you want to do something right, ask somebody that's done it right themselves, right? And those are philosophies of life that I've applied to myself in a lot of business aspects, right? If I'm going to go and sit and do marketing, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to listen to the marketer. Give me the details, right? Same thing applies. And I listen to people and they talk and they'll explain to me things and I'll tell them, you're going to shoot up in weight. You're going to do this. Oh, no, this, trust me on this. 6 months later, they haven't lost a pound, or they lost 20 pounds and they gained 30 pounds. That's a reality. And that was my lifestyle 53 years ago, right? For 53 is up to 53 years. So that's why I'm doing this quick little podcast here. Jean-Guy Bourguignon, I wanted to prove a point. I've gained 8 pounds in 3 days and it took me a week to get it off, but I'm getting it off. Right? But I just want to show you, prove a point to you, prove a point to me, prove a point to lifestyle, that if you want to stay healthy, you want to stay ripped, you want to stay trim, you want to keep the inflammation and the diseases and the Alzheimer's and dementia, the Parkinson, the sleep apnea, all those illnesses down to a none, right? Follow a non-processed, non-glycemic, blood sugar affecting traditional foods. Jean-Guy Bourguignon, EFA173.